Education, Manny Diaz. And then we've got Mary Chance, President Consortium of Florida Education Foundation, Alex Kelly, Florida Commerce, Kiki Poole, Executive Director, Taylor County Education Foundation, Carol West, Dixie Education Foundation, Annie Whitehurst, Director, Levy County Education Foundation, Tim Sanders, President, Madison County Foundation for Excellence in Education, Lori Evans, Executive Director, Suwannee County Education Foundation, and then we have Superintendent Alicia Bashirs from Taylor County, Heather McCoy, Principal here at Taylor County High School, and then we have Representatives Alvarez and Schoaf joining us here as well. We appreciate all the work that everybody's done responding to Hurricane Helene, particularly here in Taylor County. We did all the search and rescue immediately. You know, they're just now starting federal search and rescue in North Carolina. I mean, we were there immediately, and Taylor County was able to get out of it. Obviously, a lot of damage, but in terms of protecting life was really a great job, and we worked very hard to rescue people all across the state. And then we also know, so that's first, but then got to get the services restored. So as of this afternoon, we have had power restored to 2.38 million accounts. And as of noon, there's less than 20,000 accounts in the entire state without power. We're still not even a week away from the storm hitting. And so we obviously were proactive about having the power folks staged and getting on target, but that's really impressive. I mean, I think people that have lived through some of these storms in the past, you know, you'd have even more modest storms. People would be out for a couple weeks sometimes. And in this case, we're getting down to where if the infrastructure was totally uprooted, then they have to build new one. It takes a little longer. But anyone that could receive power with a normal reconnect is there. So we got about 19,000 left with the co-ops, and that's mostly in the Big Bend region. And they're, for considering the damage, I know it's frustrating if you're still without and you're one of the 19,000, but this is a big storm, and they were working as soon as the storm passed. So we're appreciative of that. And I don't know that it's ever been done where you've had almost 2.4 million done at this pace for one of these storms at this magnitude. I mean, sometimes you have storms that aren't as significant, but this was a big one. We are responding. We have responded for Taylor County requests throughout the emergency. So right now we've delivered 1 laundry trailer, 3 bathroom trailers, 3 shower trailers, 10 generators, including at the EOC and Taylor, 4 forklifts, light towers to support the Salvation Army base camp, food for animals at the shelter, fuel distribution for Steinhatchee, 22 oxygen regulators, 5 10 to 12 person sleeper trailers with full wraparound services, almost 120,000 liters of water, almost 3,500 tarps, 9 comfort cooling stations for residents in need of relief. We're also in the process of mobilizing additional missions to provide over 34,000 bags of ice. You know, we're already in October. It'd be nice if we got a little moderation on the summer heat. Seems like it's just that storm passed. Maybe the next day was a little modest, and then it's just gotten hot and hotter and hotter. So that ice is important. 500 cleanup kits, 5 portable hand washing stations, 2-way solar powered traffic message board, 5 Florida National Guard base camps, debris removal from the waterways, which I know is really significant in this part of the state. Trucks from across the state have shipped supplies here to support the victims of the storm. 91,000 pounds of supply just to Taylor County, and 66,000 of that is food. So there's been a lot of food that have been brought in, and we're thankful for folks delivering that. So we have a lot that's been done. One of the things, reason why we're at the school is you got to get back on your feet. It's not easy, but certainly our kids, they need to be in their activities. They need to be in school. They need to be able to be with their friends. And it's challenging. It's not easy. But that is the best way to do it. Having them out of school for potentially weeks at a time is not going to be good for their development. So we've worked really hard. I know the commissioner worked with the school districts to try to get this to where this could be feasible as soon as possible. And so today I'm proud to announce that all school districts, all 67 counties are back to normal operations. We're not even a week after this hurricane and people are back. And so that's been a really, really impressive effort. You had last Thursday night, you had a big storm hit, and then here we are with all the school districts open. Now, we understand that there's challenges that come with this because you have teachers and you have faculty and administrators who may have lost their home, just like we know first responders and others may have done that. So we want to be able to use the resources we have to be able to help. So, and this is just a first shot that we're doing. We'll probably do a lot more, but I'm pleased to announce that today we're going to be from the Florida Disaster Fund. We're going to award $50,000 to each of the 5 education county support organizations that I listed earlier in the hardest hit school districts. So Taylor, Dixie, Suwannee, Levy, Madison. So these are private charitable organizations, and they can distribute that money to be able to help their teachers. So maybe now you do qualify for individual assistance, you qualify for temporary lodging, travel. There's a whole bunch of options there, but maybe you need resources for something else. And so that is going to be there, and they can distribute that as they see fit, based on need or based on however they really want to do it. So those checks are now here, and that's $50,000 for each of those county education support organizations. Yep. And then we have at the Steinhatchee Community Center until 4 o'clock today, we have the Small Hope Florida bus. That's the way to get in touch with all these different organizations that are providing support, whether it's Team Rubicon that does the home repairs and debris removal, whether it's an organization that does food. I mean, there's a whole host of people that are plugged into this now, and Hope Florida and Activate Hope is the way to be able to do that. So that will be at the community center until 4 o'clock. We also have 2 in Dixie County as well. Individual assistance. So Taylor was approved. It's now been expanded to include Columbia, Gilchrist, Hamilton, Leon, and Suwannee for individual assistance. And that's through FEMA, not through the state of Florida, but you can go on and apply and try to get that done. Small business loans. We have the zero interest loan program for small businesses up to $50,000. There's not even a requirement that you pay it on a certain schedule. It's a very flexible program. So if you have small businesses that need some cash to be able to get through this difficult time, that's probably the most generous program that's out there. So I'd encourage folks to take a look at that. We've done 55 of these emergency bridge loan approvals already, $2.2 million, and we're excited about doing that. So we're doing the $50,000 to each education group here from the Florida Disaster Fund. People can give to the Florida Disaster Fund. Go to floridadisasterfund.org. It's tax deductible, charitable contribution, and you can do that, and that will be put to good use like here, supporting people that are educating our kids, supporting, I know we did in Ian, we did stuff for the police and for the fire, because again, they're responding to support the community, and yet it didn't mean, it's not like if you're involved in public service that your house is magically spared from what happened. So some of those folks lost their homes and they were still out serving. So this has been something that's been really, really good. Finally, Operation Blue Ridge. And you saw the devastation here in the Big Bend. We were able to get people in there immediately, stabilize, relief, rescue, all that. North Carolina and those mountains, people are cut off. You're having to do these aerial missions to be able to provide relief and to rescue. It's a really, really difficult situation. So when we finished our rescue mission here, we had assets that were idle, not being used. And so under Operation Blue Ridge, we sent those rescue helicopters, some of our FWC boats, other things up to the mountains of North Carolina, and including a convoy of Florida Department of Transportation. You know, our bridges in Florida are fine. They had a lot of their bridges knocked out. So they're bringing 7,500 feet of temporary bridges. They're going to help with road repairs. We've already done rescues. We had Florida State Guard and FWC rescued a mother with a 1-year-old infant, evacuated them to safety. Yesterday, there were 100 families stranded, and they were able to airlift in rations, clean water, and fuel. So if you are somebody in Florida that is either there or has a family or friend or someone that needs help in North Carolina, we have assets that can bring them to safety. Go to floridadisaster.org/Operation Blue Ridge. Before I turn it over to Manny and then Mary Chance, I just want to reiterate something I said earlier today. We've got folks who are facing significant amount of rebuilding. You know, I was just in Pinellas County. You know, some of those homes didn't get totally obliterated like they saw in the coast here, but they had 4 or 5 feet of water in them, so they're having to gut the drywall, do all that. And so there's going to be a big effort for rebuilding. And I think it's important that everybody has access to the supplies that they need. Anything we need to rebuild, we need to make sure that that's readily available. And if you see what they're doing with these ports, to have ships just sitting off the coast with all these vital materials and supplies while people are really suffering and just idle there without even being brought here, I think is unacceptable. I think we have a responsibility to meet the needs of the people that have been harmed by this big storm, and we got to do everything we can to get people back on their feet. And so whatever we can do in the state of Florida, a lot of this stuff is not in state jurisdiction, a lot of it's federal, but whatever we can do to ensure that we have the supplies and the materials we need flowing into the state of Florida so that our residents are able to get back on their feet, we're going to do that. We can't just we shouldn't just sit around. And if the Biden-Harris, they should be being proactive to ensure that we're going to have everything that we need is going to continue to flow to the affected areas. It's not just the state of Florida. Got a lot of people in Georgia. You got a lot of people in North Carolina. This was a big storm that traveled very quickly and did damage in a lot of places. And so I would hate to have a situation where you've got people in a very desperate time that are basically just having to sit around and wait because this stuff is not getting to our ports and distributed like normal. So let's make sure that that's remedied with everything we can. Okay, Manny Diaz.
Thanks, Governor. It's great to be here in Taylor County today and see that all of our students are back in school. I want to take a moment to thank the governor for his leadership. We're so fortunate in Florida to have Governor Desantis, especially in these trying times, the cooperation that we're able to have across agencies, to have the Department of Education to be able to work not only with our school districts, but also with the Department of Transportation and Emergency Management to get generators, to get supplies, to get anything we need, also to get the roads cleared to make sure that we can get our kids to school. I also want to thank our superintendents that are here today for the work that they have done for the communication through the storm and after the storm and the recovery to make sure that we can get our students back into our schools. In preparation for the storm, we had 65 traditional school districts announce closures. On Monday, 56 of those districts opened for students, with another 4 opening yesterday. And as the governor mentioned, I'm happy to report today, I'm proud to say that the 5 remaining school districts have opened today, so all 67 school districts are back in operation. Getting students back into class and into school after a disaster is not only about academics. In a lot of places, this is the place where students find normalcy, where they can get hot meals, where they have power and air conditioning, and on top of that, get back into that routine to make sure that those academics don't suffer as we're going forward. It provides a sense of stability. And again, I want to thank the governor for the Florida Disaster Relief Fund as he's here presenting these checks to these 5 organizations in these districts. We cannot forget that getting the kids back to school requires a lot more after a storm, and this should be able to help. I want to thank our teachers for their commitment in getting back and being with their students, and our students for being back. Thank you. I'm proud of the work that we've done to get schools back, and I'm very thankful for Governor DeSantis' leadership.
Thanks. Okay, Mary Chance from the Consortium of Florida Education Foundations.
Good afternoon. So the Consortium of Florida Education Foundations represents the education foundations aligned with all of our 67 countywide school districts from coast to coast. And we have found ourselves through our network in this second responder business for quite a few years, going back to Maria and Irma, I think 2018 and 19. But when Ian hit Southwest Florida, and we were able to have the governor's support and the Florida Disaster Fund support in that area of Florida, and then also with Adalia here, it's been a game changer for our folks to really have an impact, because the teachers and school staff who are impacted in their own lives are also preoccupied with their students. They want to lay eyes on their students. They want to be back there for the sense of normalcy that Commissioner Diaz and the governor just talked about, that's so critical. So after Hurricane Michael, which we hosted a call with the superintendent or the school leaders there just last summer to learn lessons there, we heard about bus drivers who were having to live in Alabama because there was no housing available for them to commute back to work in their school district. And so the Ed Foundations provided gas cards or other support for those bus drivers. After Ian, in Southwest Florida, we heard about a teacher who was displaced and living with somebody in another county and riding their bicycle to get back to their school to be there. So this type of deeper support with generous citizens and businesses who give through the Florida Disaster Fund is really helping us step it up to next level. What that support looks like, we rely on the folks who know it best in their local community to decide what makes sense for their community. In some instances, with Ian and smaller school districts would ask anybody who was impacted and who worked for the schools who lost the contents of their refrigerator or was displaced temporarily, they provided some financial support. In other instances, there's already a housing shortage in Southwest Florida, some very expensive areas in Collier and Sarasota and Lee. The Ed Foundations ran processes to help with people who needed, temporary housing or an Airbnb deposit or had huge insurance deductibles, with the goal of getting those teachers, custodians, school staff back so that they could serve their students. So our role in all of this will be to have these folks who unfortunately have been in this position before, just 13 months ago, continue to learn from one another about how to be the best stewards of these funds. And we really appreciate the partnership with the Florida Disaster Fund and all the contributors in our generous state. Thank you.
Taylor, we're going to do one big photo with everyone. Who wants Taylor? Okay. Who wants Dixie? Okay. Levy? There you go. Madison? And Sawani. All right, let me get in here with you guys. We'll do a big photo. Show this to the check. Ready? Everyone look at me. 3, 2. All right, congratulations. Good job. And then one final thing, we are going to be sending out we did legislation for storm stuff to be able, if your home got destroyed, obviously you shouldn't be paying property taxes. And so we are putting that into effect. The property appraisers will have the instructions, but basically you're entitled to a rebate. And I think you have until March to file that. But those instructions are coming down the pike, and we are going to relieve the property tax burden off those Floridians and residents who suffered the really significant damage to their property. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be coming down the pike. Okay, thanks everybody. God bless.